There you go.
Leaves dropping on us. Yeah. Hi, Tanya.
Hi, Anna. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Hi, I'm Anna.
And I'm Tanya.
We're the Paradise Patriots.
Aloha.
And we're here with Kiana Dempster.
Hi.
And we're going to have a conversation today about the condition of the animals in the lava zone and what's been going on with animal rescue, or the confusion that's been happening with animal rescue. But before we start that, I want to thank the ASPCA and Dr. Dick Green for coming in and helping us basically through this animal crisis. Not only a crisis for human beings, as we all know, but it's also been a crisis for our animals that have been left behind, have been caught in the crossfire of the crisis. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
And thank you to everybody in the community who rallied to make that happen.
It's been, and I'm glad that you brought that up, Tanya, because we started a Facebook page, Heroes, the number 4, Hawaii Animals. So Heroes for Hawaii Animals. And we're going to start to record and archive the stories of the heroic efforts of the Puna community and other island people on our island that have gone in above and beyond the call of duty, that have risked their lives and didn't wait for permission and followed their hearts and went in on their own and started to rescue animals. So, and that's why we started with Kiana. I saw her video on Facebook, and she was one of those people that pushed past all of the crazy rules and regulations and followed her heart and went ahead and started to rescue our island animals. So Kiana, I'm going to ask you just to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us where you're from, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Kiana Dempster. I was born and raised on the island of Oahu in Waianae, and I spent over 2 decades of my life on the Big Island, and I currently reside in Volcano.
Now we know where you get the kind from Waianae.
What's up?
So what are your ties to the rescue community? What got you started? And
I've always been a big animal lover. I've rescued animals since I was little, and since moving back here 12 years ago and living in Volcano, I've seen so much neglect of animals, abuse, and it's just I felt that I had to do something, so I started to rescue animals and then rehome them, and the ones that were had special needs, I would let those live out their lives with me on our property.
That's awesome. All different kinds.
All kinds.
Young,
all
old,
issues,
big,
young,
little.
old, blind, seizures, missing limbs.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
They're worth it.
And I was, when I watched your original video on Facebook, I was really moved by your also owning that you're also Kanaka, and that as a Hawaiian, everybody get it together,
Yep.
Kanakas, get it together, Kanakas, and
Yep.
let's do this differently. So I know for myself, as a Hawaiian, and looking at our culture, that the state that our animals are in now, in my heart, in my opinion, in my cultural background and training, is a'ole pono. It's not good. It was never would we have ever done that.
Yes.
And when people tie it to culture, well, that's part of our culture, I disagree.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel for myself that the care that the animals get are just as important as the care of our mauna, the care of our water, the care of our aina. So can you describe for yourself how you feel, how not only how is this not pono, but how do we bring it to a place of it being pono as Hawaiians? That's a big question.
Yeah. Let me see. It's a real emotional subject for me, this whole thing, so I'll probably end up crying a lot, but
That's okay. I cried for years. I still do.
Still do. It breaks my heart to see people of any races, and especially my own, not treat the animals well. People see animals as lesser than. I don't. I see animals as being equal and of the same value as of humans. Mm-hmm. I was raised in a lot of different neighborhoods and a lot of different demographics and different social standings, and animal abuse is in every social class, and but being that I have lived in lower socioeconomic areas, I've witnessed a lot of bad things with animals. I'm trying to figure out a way to say it in a PC way, but growing up, we always see the animals on chains, never getting petted, their water not being replaced, they're barking because they're unhappy and they're getting kicked, you know, when they make noise, but they're just trying to let you know that they're suffering and they want help. I mean, there's so much things I've seen growing up all over. It's still here. I can still see it in neighborhoods where I go to visit people that I know all over the island. I still see this. There's a strong vibe of not treating animals the way they should be treated, and it's not right. It's not Pono, and I wish people could look past how we were raised and just try to do a better job of respecting life all around.
You know, and I think that's really, what you're talking about is really important for us to understand. And when we look at our culture and our history, especially dogs, were the companions of the gods, and dogs in the Kumulipo and in genealogical things have been here before us. So that means that there are elders, and being companions of the gods, they were also imbued with magical qualities and all those kinds of things. So I think that's really important for our people to understand that back in the day, that would not have been Pono. I won't go so far as to say it was Kapu, but anyway, it wasn't Pono. So what you're saying,
And companions of the elite.
the elite
Beloved
and the gods,
companions.
right. Yeah, Kamehameha had his dog Boki, right? He had the dog Boki through the entire period of unification. In fact, he loved his dog so much when the dog passed away from old age, he gave some of his own cordage that was for his bones to be wrapped. He gave it for his dog, and the dog was given a special internment on Hualalai. So that Kamehameha said wherever he was on the island, he would always be able to look at the peak of Hualalai, and Boki would be there. So, and other, Queen Kapiolani loved cats. She had a habit of bringing them home to the palace. In fact, they say that the cats on the palace grounds are, that colony that's there now are from the original colony of Queen Kapiolani. So we have a lot of history in terms of respecting all beings. That's part of Aloha. That's part of our culture. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's the first time I ever heard anyone else say it but me. So
I was trying
thank
to say
you.
it in a nice way.
I don't say it
a lot better. If people would just give me a free interview, but that's not today. That's not today.
So getting back to what's been going on our island, and I think there are, in some ways we knew it was coming, and then in another way it's been completely shocking, and it's left the community in a state of chaos, even though in the back of our minds I think we always know that that's something that could happen to us, and we expect it in some ways. So so in the beginning of the rescue effort, so that the flow started around May 5th, somewhere around there. And then the rescue efforts, I think, kicked in almost immediately, if I remember right. I remember seeing something around May 6th, and then activating, wanting to bring the ASPCA in, I know for sure was around May 9th. So, but in the beginning of the rescue efforts, can you explain what moved you to respond, and then what was a typical rescue day like for you? Because you were on the ground, you were one of the first responders, you were in the mix. Mm-hmm. So what moved you to respond in the way you did, and What was a typical day like?
Okay, I was moved to respond by my great love for animals, and I knew that people would be rushing around scared and maybe not be able to take all of them with them. And I'm the kind of person who feels like I have to get involved when I'm passionate about something. And so I was online from the very first, when it first started flowing. I don't remember if it was the 3rd or the 5th, but I kept asking people online, like, can anybody get me in there? Because I don't have a placard. I don't live there. I don't have a driver's license. I don't even know anybody who lives in there. And so I was like, how can I get in? How can I get in? I was spinning my wheels online, and I kept trying to ask and get with all these groups. And I either got no responses back, or I got told that I wasn't needed, and that they had it. But deep down, nobody has it. There wasn't enough help. So I knew I had to get down there. I just said, screw it, I'm coming. And I jumped in the car. After a couple of days of spinning my wheels, I jumped in the car. And I came down and I went to the Pahoa shelter, and I spent 6 hours walking around trying to get people to get me into the neighborhood. It got to the point where I started to try to bribe people to get me into the neighborhood. I walked around the shelter and I was like, does anybody want to earn $50? Just get me in there. Just give me an hour. Just get me in there and drop me off. I had some candles in my car, leashes, collars, everything I needed. And I got no takers. I did get people who told me that they would be glad to take my money as a donation, but not to take me in. That was very frustrating. The first day I spent 6 hours walking around. I even went all the way around asking by some of the stores on the main street, Island Naturals, asking people outside if they would take me, but no one would. Some guy even told me that he would take me in, but only for $300, and I didn't have $300. And it was very upsetting because I wanted to give him 300 cracks. I really did. I was like, I'm losing my mind here. But so I went home and I was just very upset. I made a video about it, and the next day I said, screw it, I'm going to try again. An admin of one group got me in with some people who were going in to try to evacuate a woman out, and she was looking for a cat. So I jumped in with them. We went through some parts of Leilani. We went to her house, got some stuff of her stuff loaded, couldn't find her cat. And then they went driving around and they wanted to see the lava and stuff, so I got out. And I ran through some of the yards, and I was looking for certain dogs that I'd seen advertised on social media as being lost, like a dog named Loveland, which they eventually did find and rescue, so yay. But I had no luck with that dog that day, and I started running through yards and trying to find anything. It was any animals left behind, and I was even rapping on windows and listening for sounds inside. This was already at a point where it had been erupting for several days and people weren't able to get in for a while, and then they finally got back in, and at some of the houses you could smell the decomposition through the window, and there were flies buzzing because the animals had apparently been left. I don't know if they had food or water, but it had already been several days by the time I got there, and it had already smelled like they had been gone a couple days. And they should never have been left, but I couldn't let myself stay focused on that. I had to keep looking and keep pushing. So you run through some of the yards. I started going from yard to yard, sometimes behind the houses, just running because it's easier to go in a straight line than come back out the window and run down the street and go, hello, can I come in? And no one's even there to give you permission, And I didn't break into any houses or anything, but I ran through looking for animals, and some animals were dead already in the yards. And so I just, said a quiet prayer and just kept moving. Sometimes I would try to pull a couple branches off it, pull some kind of rubbish that was left in the yard during evacuation, just try to cover an animal, just keep going. And then so that was on that day. And also there was some sights and some sounds and some smells throughout the whole period of the days when I was going, things that should have never took place. No, people should have evacuated their animals. But the people I was with on that day, some of the steam started coming up on the cracks of the road, and we ended up down on O'Hare Street where that was happening, and then they decided they wanted to go, and they were my ride to get in and out. So I left with them that day. And then, but at least I got to see what it was like that first day, to try to prepare myself mentally to go back in on the rest of the days, you know.
And you did do that.
Yeah. Some people did take me in out of the kindness of their hearts. Most of the time I had to pay people or bribe people to take me in. I just walked around Malama Market parking lot and just asking people if I could pay them to take me in.
Was that kind of common? Was that just, did most of the rescue people have to go through that, trying to get in and doing, you know, like bending over backwards to try to get into rescue animals? Is that kind of how it went for?
It seemed like the most of the people that I met, because they weren't affiliated with any groups or had no access to getting in with the groups, even though they tried, we all ended up spinning our wheels a lot, coming down and trying to find people to get us in. Some people promised to get us in, then they never showed up. Mm-hmm. Some people tried to get us in, and then the cops wouldn't let us in. Mm-hmm. And then so we were all just sitting there with trucks full of kennels and food and water, everything, and it's so sad because you know they're in there and they need you. But we kept getting roadblocks thrown up in front of us. But sometimes I was able to go in, and we were able to get some animals out, mostly cats. Mm-hmm. Cats. So cats got out.
And was there any, because it would seem like, you know, there was you and other people who, because there weren't a lot of rescue organizations that could handle that anyway. Is that not right? Or am I wrong about that? Were there, how many organizations do you think that were allowed access were actually going in?
I'm not sure. Maybe just a couple that I know of,
yeah,
that I'm aware of at that point.
That were actually on the ground going in.
I did see that guy Nate, who was always going in with his big truck, and he had some guys and some kennels with him. We kept passing each other sometimes on the roads.
And he was allowed access consistently?
Yeah, he was allowed access. I'm not sure why or what his hookup was, but I had a hell of a time because I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
And stuff. And one time I even had to jump in the back under a tarp on someone's pickup just to get in. And I ran around with a cat container, because obviously I'm pretty big. I can't run with big containers. And I just had to run and just hope to God I could find something, you know. And I did all this without any donations. I just did it with my own money.
That's what I was going to ask you, if you were supported in any way.
Because I just wanted to help, and I just felt a burning need to get in there.
And so I'm sure, you know, people feel the same way you do. Was there anywhere, like in any, you know, any of the shelters that were together in Central Pahoa, was there a booth or a place where people could go and sign up to go in, or sign up for, you know, was there any kind of organized effort? Was there anywhere where people got together in the morning and said, we're going to go do this today, and then divide up work or anything like that?
When I first went there to the shelter, the first thing I tried to do was try to get in with someone, see if there was anything organized I could jump in with, because it would have been a lot easier and probably way more effective. But what I was told was that to just leave it alone, and I could help in other ways, and that I wasn't going to be allowed to go in with anyone. And at one point I was even told to stop trying to solicit rides to get in. Even though I was offering payment for him, it's just walking around, and you know, I felt like it was just totally messed up. Okay. And like it was disorganized. I mean, I'm sure they tried, but I was not satisfied at all with any of the responses I got. I don't think any normal person would have been satisfied with the way it was.
Yeah. You got a happy story? What'd you get out?
Cats. I got in with a lady. She said if I filled up her gas tank that she would take me in, and then she went in to go get her own 2 cats, and there was a bunch of ferals, and so we caught her two, and we were able to trap 2 others that came for food, and so we got out. That was the best story, because that was the most amount at one time. Yeah, because a lot of the times the animals are just so scared in the bushes. Yeah. You know, it was just, even if you're shaking food, it was just, they were so scared.
What do you think should have happened that didn't happen? If you were in hindsight going to go back to day one and you were driving up to offer your services, what would it look like for you to, so that it would have happened the way?
To have some kind of coordinated rescue on the ground at the shelter would have been good, because a lot of people who showed up to help showed up there and just stood there spinning and didn't know what to do and didn't have a way in. That would have been good. I think it would have been better if the Civil Defense had kind of planned this out from the beginning since the last flow. I think they had...
In 2014?
Yeah, they had enough adequate time to come up with a plan. I think several years is a lot of time to come up with a plan for something like this, and not just for lava, but for like hurricanes or anything, floods, anything that could have happened. Having more care and attention and focus put on the plight of animals would have been good. I do understand that they're focused on people, but I do think there should always be a plan made for the animals. And I do think that there was a media blackout through this whole thing, personally, until they got that one dog from Pohoiki Merlin, which I'm very happy about. But prior to that, and I think prior to everyone knowing that the ASPCA coming, there was no coverage really of what was going on with the animals and the plight of the animals. I mean, farms went down. So many animals went down, and no one was talking about it, and I felt very upset that it wasn't being addressed. At least if you're not gonna fix it, it should be talked about, so the next time it doesn't go down like this. And so I made a video to try to talk about it to people, and I didn't think it would get as many views as it did, and I'm glad it did. But things need to change. I think there's not that much value placed on animal life on this island. I'm just gonna say it. The whole thing was effed up. They should have done a better job. I'm ashamed of the lack of coordination, and I'm happy to everyone who did try to rescue. I want to acknowledge there were people who did it and there were groups who tried, but there was not enough help at all. The ASPCA should have been invited way in the beginning. And it's not the lowly workers in the Humane Society's fault. It's the pencil pushers. It's the people up at the top who didn't do their job. It's about animals. Get over yourselves and your egos. Get over the money. And do your effing job. And save animals like you're supposed to. They suffered horrible deaths. And you make me ashamed for not doing it earlier. And I don't give a F who the hell hears this, because it should have been done. Nobody should have to see what I saw. Plenty of people saw way more than me. I have messages in my phone on Facebook from me and rescuers and admins talking about what we've seen. And we don't have time to cry about it because we still have work to do. And I'm hoping that the ASPCA will really come and really help us, because apparently we can't do it without them, as you can see. And, I don't believe in holding back. The Humane Society, the people at the top, you screwed up. I just trying so hard not to swear right now. So many people perished, and I am ashamed of you. And to the people who left their animals behind on purpose, I am ashamed of you. You make me sick. And there are some, sure, who tried to get their animals out, or maybe they panicked. I get it. Maybe you try to go back in and get your animals. I get it, and I thank you for that. But I've spoken to people who've told me right out that they don't care about the animals that they left behind, because they can always get new ones, and they don't matter.
Well, you're speaking for a lot. You're speaking for a lot of people who don't have the courage to come out, and I agree with you about the blackout part of it. That there was a real blanket put on people to not talk about what's really going on or what's really happening.
It wasn't just a blackout, it was calling people out and telling them to stop.
Yes.
Stop saying this. Stop posting this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to mahalo you for putting your video out, because I was listening to the official rescue organizations who were saying everything was good and look
Right.
at all the good work that was being
Right.
done. So when I started seeing posts by you, and I didn't know you before today, you know, just now online, and so like I didn't know all the stuff that was really happening.
Right.
And I was attending the meetings in Pahoa, you know, the community.
There was
involvement
no
meetings. There
presence.
was no presence.
Yeah, that's
by
true.
the
They weren't
Humane
part of the civil
Society
defense
or by
team.
any,
Right.
you know, rescue organizations. So you don't know really how horrible, you know, the situation was till I did see your video. So thank you, because that got me more involved in other videos to see like, oh my gosh, this has to be addressed.
Yeah, I was hoping that there's so much raw emotion just thinking about everything, but it's like I figured if I could put a video out that at least talking about it, then people would hear and know, because when they don't hear anything, they don't see anything, they think it's okay, and they see a couple happy pictures online of animals that were rescued and everybody's like,
Right.
yay, like we should be, but that's not the whole story. That's
Right.
just a tiny blip on the radar. I mean,
And
the
they're
whole-
using those
yeah.
videos to get donations
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
donations without a coordinated effort on how are you going to spend that money. Is that money being dedicated to the lava rescue for all animals, not just dogs and cats, as you saw,
Right.
you know, and you
Cattle
were-
and-
cattle, livestock, animals that we're not used to needing
Right.
to rescue in this kind of way. And so, yes, a coordinated effort with people, experts to come in should have happened right from the get-go.
Right. And you know, it's interesting because when we first got in touch with the ASPCA and, you know, started that ball rolling, there were, a lot of people were upset about that and were angry that we were going in that direction. And the real consistent message was, we don't need the help. We don't need them here. We're handling it on our own, and we've got it. We have it handled. So.
Which was in complete opposite to the videos we were all seeing online.
Right. Exactly.
So it was like, well, what's going on? I'm seeing these videos. Some of them are live videos. This must be really happening, right? So what's going on?
When that initial contact was made with the ASPCA, it wasn't done. It was done with the heartfelt desire to help the Puna community. I never, and I still. Well, I do now because of what happened, but initially when we did that, it was because I think we all know that the Humane Society is really limited
Right.
in what they can do
They
and
tell
what
us
they
they're
can
limited
handle.
on a
They've
regular
been telling
basis.
us that for 5 years. We're
Right.
overcrowded,
Right.
we're underfunded, and we're understaffed. So knowing that was the situation that we have been hearing for 5 years, how much help they need and they're not getting the help they need and they're underfunded and so forth, it just made sense to me that we should get help right away. It was to partner with the Humane Society. It was never meant to diss them. It was never meant to say that they can't handle. There's nothing wrong with not being able to handle an emergency.
Yep.
I wouldn't
No.
do it on my own. I would call for help.
I
So I don't
totally
see
agree.
why that was an issue, and I don't understand. And I agree with you 100%. That is something that has to be discussed openly, because we refuse to have a repeat of this.
Well, and that's what we thought happened in 2014.
Right. And they were
We thought
specific.
there was
yeah.
a plan.
Right. The Humane Society was specifically instructed to put a detailed plan together. How many animals were in each home, where they were located, so that mapping would be there in the event of what we've been
Right.
faced with now. And it was really interesting at the meeting yesterday was, and Kiana, you brought it up, animals need to be evacuated first. And that was, so there was absolutely no,
Especially livestock
right?
and things like
Yeah,
that.
and any animal that
And
would,
any-
you know, cats that you know are going to be
Cats are gonna be hard
skittish and
to
hide,
catch,
and
right,
yeah, that you're not, that aren't contained or aren't, you know, tethered. That's just common sense. Chickens,
Yeah.
all of that kind of thing.
Well, and even if it couldn't be documented on the number of animals and where, to have a plan written down on how you're going to coordinate and seek out additional volunteers to meet the needs.
Right.
in
And
an
even a
emergency.
training.
Obviously, that
Yeah.
wasn't even
Training an
written
emergency
down
team.
or anything. So I'd love to see the written plan if
Yeah.
there is one.
Train an
because
emergency.
we can make
yeah.
it better for
Yeah.
the next time.
Yes, exactly. So,
And,
no, go ahead.
I wanted to bring up too, a lot of the times we showed up at people's houses who wanted help, and you know, people show up with all kinds of things. Some people showed up with trailers, you know, they're ready to evacuate, ready to move people's livestock, and then all of a sudden the owners change their minds, and because the owners own the animals, we have to have permission to remove them legally. So we're standing there and everyone's there, and people's egos and pride is getting all up in the mix, and then we end up leaving without any animals because they changed their minds and they refused to let us help them. And then later on, their animals get taken by lava.
So that could be another, you
Yeah.
know, in an emergency situation, there could be some sort of a, right, who has the authority to take an animal?
Mm-hmm.
And where do animal rights begin and end?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because if, in my opinion, if they left and they abandoned the animals, they're abandoned. You don't need to find out who owns the property and who owns that animal. If they leave dogs there and just left them there, then it's, I think, our responsibility as good people to rescue them.
Right, and that
Yeah.
can be something that should,
Yeah.
the Humane Society has
Yeah.
the authority to remove an animal that's endangered
Mm-hmm.
or abused or whatever, so it
And
would,
like, yeah,
in this kind of a situation, it would seem
yeah.
that
If
they
it's
would
imminent,
have,
if it's coming down the road and you're right,
Right.
there and there's an animal right there and then you take the animal, you think people would cheer you on instead of talking about, hey, you should have left that there because it's not yours to take. Yeah.
so,
There's a lot of weird things we ran into out there. I just hope that people will take the time now to think about their evacuation plan, whether they're in the zone or not, because you never know when something could happen, lava related or not related to lava, and they need to have a plan to evacuate their animals. One thing we noticed is that the stories we're hearing is people would have 3 carriers and maybe 8 cats, and they could have put several cats into a carrier, but instead they only put in 1, and then they left the others to perish. Or they put their animals in, and then they didn't like to see the animals being upset about being contained. Like they said, oh, my cat was meowing and my cat didn't like it. I felt bad, so I let it back out. Now there's no cat. So things like that. Just plan ahead. Try not to have more animals than you can evacuate with. I would say that too, because if you accumulate 60 animals and you have no way of getting them out in an emergency, that's not a good thing either.
that's a good idea.
I mean, we all want to rescue animals, but if you're just accumulating them and then something bad like this happens and you don't have help to get them out, well, you just set them all up to perish. So,
And I think another part of the problem is that because the lava, at least initially, was moving a little bit slower, so there's this mental mindset that I'm going to get to go back.
yes.
And I think in a true emergency, you need to look at it like I might never get back. So take life first.
Right.
You know, I know just working in adult daycare, that's a big thing with kupuna, right? You
Yes.
gotta make sure you have a plan for your kupuna, because especially if they're isolated and depending on where they live, it's hard to get to them. You might not, be able to get to. And the same thing is with the animals. You know, when they don't have their own voice, they can't pick up the phone and call you and be like, "This is where I'm at. Come and get
Yeah.
me." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we can't be in that mindset that just like look at what happened to Kapoho and Vacation Land in a matter of hours, one day. So we can't go, oh well, this is a slower moving emergency. We're on Hawaii time. you
Yeah,
know,
right.
it's not like that. We have to see that this truly is an emergency.
Yes. Treat the word evacuation for what it means. It means
Right.
evacuate, like you're never coming back.
Right. And if you get to go
Treat
back,
it
great.
that way. Yeah,
Right.
and if you get to go back the next day, then great.
Right.
Save someone else's animal who didn't do their job. You know?
Good point.
Yeah.
I think
grab
that's
a
something
neighbor's
that we
animal
can all
if you
learn
can.
from this.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so
Yeah.
not criticizing anyone in that sense. That's our mindset. You
Yeah.
know, to not react so quickly like that. But we have to get out of that.
The meeting, so ASPCA, Mahala Nui Loa, they're on the ground. I saw some things happening right away. I think they landed Wednesday night and it looked like Thursday things started to move, and then there was the community meeting on Saturday. I wasn't able to be there because I had to take care of some other things, but I was able to watch the live stream. So again, thank you for doing that so that everyone was able to hear what was said and understand what kind of planning was going on and so forth. I was really, really happy to see that many people there. I think that's the first time that I've really seen that many people come out for the animals. In all of the years that I've been involved in animal rescue and trying, shelter reform and all of that, I was really, really surprised and happy. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, and if I trigger people, e Kalamaya'u, sorry. But of course the lava affected animals have got to come first, and all of the efforts need to go towards that and get all of them taken care of and settled and all of that. And after that, I hope that same amount of people with that same heartfelt love for animals will come together for the long-term changes that have to happen on our moku for our animals. Shelter reform, as I think Kiana said so profoundly, they have to be treated like the sentient beings they are, and we have to have a lot of change. Those animals need rescuing. I agree. We have to focus on that now. But we have 12,000 animals a year that are euthanized, that are killed because of our lack of shelter reform. They need rescue too. They need to be rescued too. They need to be loved and taken care of. And the community needs to come together for them, just like we are coming together for the animals that are affected by the lava. So I think this is a wake-up call,
Yeah, I think
in my opinion. Some of us have been, fighting this for a long time, and other people have, come together now at this point. But this is indicative, I think. The lack of care, the lack of planning, the lack of putting them on the agenda with civil defense is all showing that same level of lack of consciousness towards their right to have a full life, their right to be free, to be the animal that they are, be the dog or the cat or whatever that they are, their right to be free of pain, and to be respected for the beings that they are. So I think this is what happened here should point to more than just a lack of planning. It's a lack of compassion and a lack of respect for the right of that sentient being. So I'm going to stop.
And that needs to be translated into
Yeah.
policy and procedures.
Exactly.
Yes.
At the
Yeah.
county level
Yes,
and at
yes,
the organizational
yes.
level
Yeah,
in all the
absolutely.
rescues. It needs to be a coordinated effort.
And it's important to understand that those animals that are, some people call it euthanized. I don't like to say that because euthanizing is used when an animal is irredeemably suffering.
Measure.
It's done because it's expedient. It's done because it's more cost effective. It's done because
The animals
our
suffering.
our imaginations as a community can't get out of the last century of animal reform and rescue shelter reform, because people can't think outside of their own limited thought process. So that's why we pay as taxpayers $2.2 million a year, and that's what's happening
For the
with those tax
euthanasia
dollars.
solution.
Yeah, and that's the
Final solution.
exactly, and it needs to stop. So
Spay and neuter.
there's many things.
Yeah,
Spay
they
and
need
neuter is
to.
at the top of the list. Absolutely.
It just isn't. It's not even an animal problem. It's a people problem. It's a people problem. It's a people problem. Animal problem. It's a people problem. It's people not being
It is a people problem.
smart with their animals. They need to do their job and make sure that their dogs and their cats and everything is spayed and neutered, so there isn't an overpopulation of animals, because then they always end up at the shelter.
Right.
And
And
people need to, do their job, be responsible pet owners.
I agree with that, and it goes back to planning again, because I'm going to go like another realm of that and saying there's no plan for pet sustainability on our island either. So there's no plan to get that pet population under control. With what you're talking about, spay and neuter is a big piece of it, but there's other pieces of it that
Other
would get us
components.
to a pet population that's sustainable, so we could stop killing as the solution for pet population. There's over 600 communities that already have that under control. So there's no reason why we should still be doing what we're doing.
Yes.
It's a matter of a really a mindset, a collective mindset, and then an inability to think beyond that limited thought process. So
And what is possible?
Yeah.
Because it is possible.
and it's not rocket science, and we're not talking out of our ocoles. The plan is there already. We have communities, and again we have organizations that want to come in and help us Just like organizations wanted to come in and help us with this, there's organizations that want to come in at no cost and help us. So I hope that we can take the momentum here
Well, and that's another
and go to the long term.
silver lining of everything that's happening is,
Yeah.
you know, we're meeting other people and we're
Right.
networking with other people who really want this long-term solution
Right,
and the respect that animals deserve as life.
right, exactly. So, just for in closing, the lava animals, absolutely. First, they come
Top
first.
priority.
That's a top priority for all of us to stay focused on, and do what you can. If you can't help in the, if you don't live in Puna and you're not part of the on the ground rescue team like Kiana, then foster. If you can't foster, adopt. If you can't adopt, donate. Donate, to probably the hub. You think?
Yeah.
Dog food, cat food. They have their lists that come out regularly. If you don't want to do that, you can donate money to the hub for those rescues. I think probably looking in the future, we'll see what the plan is with the ASPCA involved. I would imagine we're going to have a lot of animals that are going to need homes. If we can't home them here, we can send them. I've already had people contact me. We can send them to no-kill shelters in the mainland so they can start a new life somewhere. And we'll need, funds for that. And there will be organizations like probably Rainbow Friends or CARES that can coordinate that as well. So, last words, anybody?
All life is sacred.
All life is sacred. My kailoa. Yeah.
And if you haven't gotten your pets out now, please make arrangements to do so.
Yes. It's not over yet.
Contact us. We'll come.
And mahalo to everybody
Yes.
who's helped with this effort
Absolutely.
to save the animals. Mahalo.
Mahalo. So I'm Anna,
I'm Tanya.
and we're the
We're the
Paradise Patriots.
Aloha.